The battle between former President Jacob Zuma and State Capture Commission of Inquiry Chair, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo continues to ensue. The Sunday Times, in fact, is reporting that it has seen at least 20 subpoenas relating to bank accounts related to Zuma, his family, and the education trust in his name. But of what interest would these statements be exactly should former president appear at the commission? Well, Newzroom Afrika senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo joins us to unpack this and a few other stories making headlines on the newspaper front. Well, Ziyanda, very good morning. Thanks for joining us here on Newzroom Afrika. I mean, let's just start off by looking at the Sunday Times, and obviously the big headline that reads, "Show us the money." I mean, it seems that this battle is developing on multiple legs, and now it seems that there may be some bank accounts which have come to the fore. Why are former President Jacob Zuma's financial statements so important at this juncture?
A very good morning to you, Liesl. Well, of course, the bank statements will be forensic evidence to law enforcement agencies. That's why they're so important. But equally as important, Liesl, is the fact that the former president has said through his lawyers that he will not be appearing before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry until Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo recuses himself from this commission. Now, you'll remember, Liesl, that earlier on this week we saw Zuma supporters marching upon the state capture commission's premises in Bloemfontein, demanding that he recuses himself, Zondo recuses himself, and that the entire commission be dissolved because they believe that he's taken a biased position towards the former president. So these financial statements, one, are crucial because then that would be that the former president would have to be answerable to. But secondly, Liesl, a very important thing is the fact that there has been a proclamation by the Special Investigating Unit which says that the State Capture Commission investigators will be working closely with law enforcement agencies, and whatever is said at the commission could be used by law enforcement agencies to issue a warrant of arrest or to continue with investigations. So if these financial statements turn out to have any sort of dodgy transactions, that would add to the former president's woes because he's already facing a corruption trial, and this would just only add more to his troubles.
Now, Ziyanda, just looking at the delay tactics that seem to be at play during this juncture, I mean, ultimately, are these delay tactics proof of some of the implications related to the status of whether he's guilty or not? And also just looking at the issue of former President Jacob Zuma's lawyers wanting to recuse the Deputy Chief Justice. I mean, could this happen if that process is to happen and the Deputy Chief Justice is recused? What will it then look like?
Well, we know that the lawyers of the former president are still going to make their application, or submit their application rather, to Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo if they believe that they've been treated unfairly. They've already indicated that they will be heading to the courts to actually have a higher court, an actual court of law, because the commission is not a court of law, but to actually go to the courts to have them determine whether or not the Deputy Chief Justice is fit to continue as chairperson of the commission. Now, what we're waiting to see in this application are the reasons for why they want Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo to recuse himself. They've said Zondo has personal and family strained relations between himself and Zuma, and that there are certain things that he should have declared to Chief Justice Mogoeng before taking up the chairmanship position of this particular commission. Now, Liesl, it's equally important to remember that the former president was meant to have appeared 4 times at least this year. One of the times he was traveling to Cuba for medical treatment. On another occasion, it coincided with his corruption trial. And then on another occasion, the former president had indicated that he's too ill due to COVID-19 and that he couldn't travel from Nkandla to Johannesburg. And so that's what led to the tone that we've seen Zondo striking this week in particular when issuing those summons for Zuma to appear before the State Capture Commission. So certainly there will be implications if these financial statements show any sort of dodgy transactions. The law enforcement agencies, because of that proclamation, have all the freedom and the access to act upon whatever it is in those particular transactions. And that's why some quarters are believing that it's a deliberate attempt by the former president to delay actually his appearance before the commission. But we know that Zondo has said between the 16th and the 20th of November, in no uncertain terms, you will be appearing before this commission, or else we'll continue without you.
Ziyanda, just perhaps before we move into the city press where Ace warns the Hawks, I just want to conclude the Sunday Times story between the Zondo and Zuma showdown. In fact, by looking at that possible scenario that obviously former President Jacob Zuma's lawyers are pushing for in terms of Deputy Chief Justice recusing himself from the commission, what impact could this possibly then have on the commission and its work to date?
Well, it certainly has an impact given the fact that, there were protesters already outside the Zondo Commission this week. They vowed that if Zondo does not recuse himself within the next 7 days, they will make this country ungovernable. In fact, they're calling for the entire dissolution of this particular commission. They also marched upon Constitution Hill and handed over a memorandum which is addressed to Chief Justice Mogoeng, saying that he has the legal power to remove Zondo if he doesn't recuse himself, to say, you hired Zondo to become chairperson of this commission. Are you aware of certain issues that may have caused a conflict of interest for Zondo to be the chairperson of this commission? But the other side of the argument, Liesl, is to say, well, why are Zuma supporters only raising this now? Why did he then appear before the commission when he did last year, and he never raised the issue of these personal and family strains between him and the chairperson? Why is it that he's raising it at a time when the Justice Department and the State Capture Commission investigators have signed this proclamation, which would ultimately give them the freedom to continue investigating? Because before, if you looked at the terms of reference, Liesl, people could go to the State Capture Commission, but law enforcement agencies didn't necessarily have the jurisdiction to actually pick up on what was said or what evidence may have been presented, by virtue of the fact that the commission isn't necessarily a court of law. So that is one of the fundamental things that's actually changed in the story. And so when we look at going forward and the work of the commission, the main thing that's going to be looked at is the consistency, because Zuma supporters are saying that Pravin Gordhan has not received the sort of tongue lashing that Zuma has when it comes to appearing before this commission. So consistency will be key. But another thing, it will be interesting to see how far Zuma supporters will take it in terms of making sure that Zondo no longer chairs this particular commission.
Well, Ziyanda, moving on from one headline to the next, we take a look at the city press now. And of course, you read the big headline, Ace warns the Hawks. ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule has warned the NPA and the Hawks that there's no need for media spectacle. I mean, it comes after a rather sketchy report of an alleged warrant of arrest that had been issued for Magashule. Now, we're just looking at some of the dynamics as well, where Magashule has come out to warned to say that he's warning against the spread of fake news. There's the issue of a public showdown that's obviously also transpiring in that camp, issues of factions that are emerging, and how that balance of power between the factions and the ANC is also playing out. And then obviously it also begs to the level of political support that he has, should these allegations, come to the fore and be implemented, and some of the political conspiracies at play. So with all of those pointers that have come through, what is reflected in this headline alluded by the city press?
Well, Liesl, in the paper, as you also would have seen this morning, the Ace Magashule's lawyers have said that if there is a warrant of arrest that is issued, his constitutional rights should be respected, in the sense that there shouldn't be a media showdown that actually is done. As we've seen, of course, the media have been present during the arrest of the likes of Edwin Sodi and the other accused in that asbestos project. Now, earlier on this week, we saw media reports saying that the warrant of arrest has been issued rather, and that Magashula's arrest is imminent. The Hawks then moved to say that this was fake news. However, Magashula, through his lawyers, expressed concern at the fact that despite the Hawks saying this is fake news, they didn't clarify whether there was ever a warrant of arrest that was requested, whether there's still one that's impending, whether they are working on one. But one thing's for sure, they're saying that even if there is a warrant of arrest that is likely to be issued, his rights to not be publicly embarrassed or humiliated should actually be maintained. So it seems as though, by judging from the Zuma and Magashula supporters, because the supporters who marched to the commission are also Ace Magashula's supporters, they are threatening to make this country ungovernable if this arrest does go ahead, and they're saying that there's no reason why Magashula should be arrested. There's no evidence that they should be arrested. In fact, Carl Niehaus saying that all of this is propaganda, and the country will feel their wrath if this arrest does actually get underway. So these almost certainly, when it comes to what happens internally within the ANC, if Magashula is arrested, it will be very interesting to see what the balance of forces looks like inside the ANC, especially given the fact that, of course, this is in light of what President Cyril Ramaphosa had promised, and also that decision by the ANC-NEC to say if you are implicated in corruption, you should step aside. What are the implications then if Ace Magashula steps aside, given the fact that ANC still needs to hold that all crucial National General Council next year?
All right, Ziyanda Ngcobo, we're going to leave that conversation there. Again, Ziyanda Ngcobo is our senior politics reporter, just unpacking some of the headlines, of course, related to the Sunday Times, City Press, and the Sunday Independent. Just wrapping things up with the City Press, in fact, about Ace warning the Hawks and that public showdown that has been taking place, highlighting the internal dynamics in the ANC, and also just testing the political support for Ace Magashula at large, what the implications are should he be arrested and have to step aside. Again, thank you very much to Ziyanda for joining us.